Hi, it's Randy. I have a little dating story for those of you who are interested in my dating escapades. For those of you who are not, or who get angry about it or have negative things to say, just go ahead and click off right now. Okay, thank you. So, as you know, I have been very busy lately. I have made myself busy, gotten a second job, and I did manage to meet a man for dinner, though, on Tuesday night. After 2 days of brief messaging. He's 8 years younger than myself, which is cool. It's just about average for me. He did look like his pictures, except he did lie about his height. He said on his profile that he was 6 foot tall, and he was actually more like 5'9.5" or 5'10". I was wearing flats. Basically, I was wearing flip-flops. So he was a little bit taller than me in my flip-flops. So what I noticed was that he was a gentleman in terms of getting, ordering and paying and that kind of stuff. And he has been divorced for 3 years. He's an engineer. He had a little bit more of a peppier personality than the typical engineer that I have met. He had a little bit of a dry sense of humor. I really didn't particularly like the looks of his teeth, but they were all there. I don't know, there was just something about his teeth that I wasn't really liking, but it was okay. So the problem began when we were in a conversation, and he did ask me questions, so that was good. And I was talking about my job history, kind of career, profession type of things, and he just didn't seem interested. He was like nodding and kind of looking through me, or kind of glancing off, seeming to be bored, but I just kept talking because my jobs and my job history are very, very interesting. Okay? Usually the average person is, at least very interested to sometimes even fascinated, okay, with some of the stories that I actually have to tell. So that kind of took me aback that he didn't appear too interested in really what I had to say in terms of my work. And my work is very important to me. It's a very big part of me, and it says a lot about me, the kinds of positions that I can handle and I have had in the past. It says a lot about me. He did pick up on that I was kind of like, I don't know, a badass, or to him he thought it was like a strong person or somebody who wasn't going to take any shit. I guess my profile and a combination of the types of things that I do for a living gave him that impression. He said he was guessing, he would have guessed that I was like in law enforcement. So anyway, that was kind of funny. So, as I said, I did tell him that I had recently made myself a lot more busy, like everybody else seems to be, because I just had not had any luck in filling my time in any more productive way in terms of meeting anybody that was really worth continuing to see more than once. And I specifically did tell him now that I work on Wednesday evenings and that I was going away for the weekend, this coming weekend. There was, then somehow the discussion kind of turned to like younger women. I think part of the reason it did was because we were in a place where there seemed to be like a lot of youngsters starting to come through as the night wore on. And it was really interesting. There was lots of kind of like gender bender people around, or shall I say, you know, tables full of young men, a lot of young men, all men. It seemed to even maybe kind of starting to become a gay establishment after a certain hour, which was totally weird because I had gone to that place for years, and my date and I were both very surprised to see what the place was kind of becoming later on a Tuesday night. Regardless, so we decided to walk to another place, and interestingly enough, the other place didn't have like all young men there, but it did have all pretty much millennials. But I mean, I guess that's par for the course. I guess, you know, in some kind of like cool cities, you're gonna run into, I guess, a lot of millennials who are out and about. He started talking about his 16-year-old son, and his son giving him advice on dating. Basically, he told me that his son is totally against him dating, and he thought that was odd because, like, why would a 16-year-old care if his dad is dating? And it turns out that his 16-year-old son seemed to be giving him some extremely good advice. His son was telling him he really needed to watch out, and like, what does he want to get himself all caught up in some kind of mess again? And yeah, I got the feeling that, like, you know, the 16-year-old son did not have a good experience with women, and apparently the mother was kind of narky, or was and is. But not only that, the 16-year-old son, who's even, you know, younger than a millennial, is not really interested in any kind of relationship with girls or boys or anybody, because the attitude that those kids a lot of time have are the MGTOW thing, like, you know, it's just not worth it. They didn't see any kind of good positive role models, and they're just like, why do you want to do that? You know, you're stupid, Dad. Why would you date anybody? You know, just be single. And so I told him that his son seemed like he really had a kind of a good head on his shoulders, and that I agreed with his son on a lot of points because of, you know, the type of women that this guy might actually be likely to date. Well, it turns out, you know, this guy really couldn't keep his eyes off the young women that were flying around our table, and the waitresses and all that stuff. And it became evident to me that, you know, he even asked me, you know, how old did I think those girls were that were sitting over there, and he was looking at different girls. Now, I mean, I don't get jealous, especially of a random stranger, but I was observing that he was really eyeing these, you know, lower 20-something girls when he's in his 40s, and he's also got, you know, a 16-year-old daughter himself. And he even discussed knowing a friend who dates and ends up very easily manipulating young women. So, you know, we were defining friends with benefits. This guy, I think he ended up more wanting to pick my brain in terms of my dating experience and what I thought about certain things, how I felt about certain things. Wanted to tell me how his son gives him advice and how he feels sorry for his son because his son doesn't really seem interested in girls at all, and just the huge difference between somebody in their 40s and then somebody in their teens in terms of the kind of dating experience and the I don't know, how they deal with attraction, and how someone in their 40s is so different from the teenage boys in terms of their attitude about the opposite sex. I mean, the guys in their 40s are much more they're much more, have a positive attitude, and they're more motivated, it seems. Anyway, in this case it was. I didn't like the way the conversation kind of turned. I mean, it was fine, but it made me look at this guy as more of a friend than as anybody to be romantically interested in, because I was starting to see like red flags that, you know, he's really interested in these young girls too. He really didn't understand what would really be wrong with it, and what I don't think he understood what would be wrong with manipulating a young girl. As long as he could, you know, jump into bed with her, there'd be no harm to that. And I mean, he didn't come out and say this, but this was just the type of guy that I thought he was, and I thought he was probably very desperate for sex at that point, but not wanting to really show it. He was asking me like how many times if he could see me like once a week on Tuesday, which felt kind of weird, like we'd be scheduling an appointment for like a weekly sex thing, and like that was like such a turnoff to me, just thinking about like I felt like I was gonna be, you know, an appointment or something. I was like, oh, wow, oh my God, we need to think about fees here then, because I mean, I wouldn't be doing that for free. I'm kidding though, but he was just like hedging his bets and really trying to figure out, I don't think not trying to figure me out or trying to understand me, but me more like trying to figure out how he could get what he wants from me without saying it. Like, and at the end of the night, I went to shake his hand and he kissed me, and then the kiss is what revealed all. That yes, he definitely was thinking with his penis. He was very motivated for the kiss, and didn't know when to stop. Did not know when to stop the kiss. That was basically out in public, where people were walking, and right by my car, as he had walked me to my car, and I felt that he was extremely sexually focused at that point, and it was all coming together. And then when he texted me the next day, which was yesterday, he asked me out again for the next day, which I had already told him I worked every Wednesday. Obviously, he didn't hear me, because I told you he was not paying attention to what I was saying. He was thinking about other things, and I could see the wheels turning in his head, and it wasn't about what I was saying. Then he also texted me and said that his son, who lives with him, is going up north this weekend. So I guess he's hint, my son's not going to be home. And again, like I said, I had already told him I'm going up north this weekend, and he wasn't paying attention to what I was saying. He didn't give a shit about me. He didn't care what I was saying. He had a one-track mind, but he was pretty, you know, fairly smooth about it, but not smooth enough. And you know, at least he did have some persistence and motivation, because that testosterone is working, but it's still at his age working a little bit too overtime for my liking, and I can see that he really does not care to really get to know me, but he is quite interested into jumping into bed with me ASAP. So that was my date. I'm sure y'all have had many similar dates to that. Leave your comments below. Have a great day.